Okay, that was that. So that's now we're entered to the land of spoilers. I don't know how deep we'll go, how fast, but it could get deep quick. So, this is your chance to get off the train.
Yeah, you don't want this anime spoiled for you.
If you're still watching, if you put your thing on autoplay and you're over in the other side of the room, run right now as fast as you can and go over and stop it so you can watch. So it won't be spoiled.
So this will get us into spoilers. Do you have a favorite character and why?
Okay. I think of all the characters, I liked Misato the most.
Oh,
Really
yes.
liked her the most.
Yep.
I thought that and she's such a great character too because um at the beginning of the show, she seems super vapid. She seems like almost like a more grown up, more adult version of Asuka in a sense. Not
Yes.
exactly, but she seems like a popular girl, right? Like a cheerleader type or something who's grown up and now is in charge of everything. You know, she she likes to party, and when Shinji comes to her house, she's always like slamming beers and stuff like that, and like woo, and, like yelling and like doing like her house is a disaster, like she's in a fraternity or something, right? But then you get these moments where you get hints where it's like that seems like that's kind of almost a persona that she's putting on. And I really liked how the farther in we got, we could see that that sort of was maybe a persona that she's putting on for Shinji, or maybe it's her sort of masking her own her own sort of like sensitivity or like uncertainty.
Yeah.
It I just thought it was so good. And then as it goes on, you get more and more into her character in the later episodes. It's just she's such an endearing character, such a character who's really trying to do the right thing for the right reasons and works really hard at it. And so that really appealed to me.
Yeah, I guess we're not gonna have much discussion about this one because she's my favorite character too. Um,
Okay.
I mean, I could seriously make a case for a good half of the characters in the show being my favorite or close. Yeah, and yeah, you're right. So Misato says right in the first episode, which is sort of funny, that she is putting on a front for Shinji, which means that her party girl thing can be read in two ways depending on what mask she happens to be putting on. So, when Shinji goes over and she's being really overly friendly, the second he's out of the room, she gets this like look crossing, like she's acting like this bubbly, obnoxious anime girl that you've seen a trillion times. And then the second he steps out of the room, she makes this like scowl face. She's like, ugh, I really hate that I'm acting like this. Am I coming on too strong? He can probably see right through me anyway. And then, like, when you realize that she's not that kind of person, you look around at the beer cans and the mess and you're like, oh, she's depressed. That's the sign of depression. Oh, God. And then it ends up getting confirmed throughout the show that that is the case and that she has this traumatic past that does link her to Asuka. Because there's that scene where her and Asuka are sitting in the onsen, the hot baths or whatever, and Asuka looks over and sees this really deforming scar running down her chest, and she's just like, "Oh, I didn't know that." She explains it, her scar or whatever, and then Asuka asks like, "So do you know about me?" And then Misato's like, "Yeah, I know everything that happened to you." And so it's like implying that Asuka has a scar that we don't know about, but it's not something you can see. And then we get
Mm.
into that. So yeah, there's just a lot to play off with her, and then of course her as a surrogate mother to Shinji and how that gets challenged over the course of the show. And the I was gonna say and the movie, but you haven't seen it yet. Oh,
It'd be cool. That's why I think this is so fun. That's why I think this is like the perfect thing to do is like in between. Because I mean, because I don't have zero knowledge of what's in the movie, at all. Like I think a very, very, very long time ago, a friend of mine who had watched all of it and then watched the movie, and like I remember him saying a few things about how it changes a bunch of stuff and all this other stuff. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. But I don't remember very much. I really don't remember other than the movie is being very a huge shift or like or a big reveal, so to speak. I don't remember anything other than that. So that's to me that's awesome. To me, it's like this is great. It's like who knows what's going to happen.
you will understand a little. It will help you understand the show a little bit better. But it just puts me back when I think about how the show left off. I can like you said, I understand why people reacted negatively to the show. Obviously, the crimes is a different story,
Right.
but reacting in a way that they didn't like it, I understand, because if that's all you thought Evangelion was going to be, I would be freaking the fuck out too, especially after the way that episode 24 left off, where we are introduced to a brand new pilot who is revealed to be an angel, who Shinji then has to murder in cold blood, basically, because it's either him or humanity goes down.
Right.
And you're just like, whoa, how are they going to end this show? And it's just like, we're not going to resolve this. You're just
Yeah.
going to have to sit there and fucking revel in the horrible choices that have led to this moment and whether or not Shinji can live with himself. And that's all. We're not even going to see anything real. It's all going to be
Right.
abstract.
Right. Yeah,
Uh,
I guess since we're um so we'll talk about that. Yeah, there's a I don't remember, is it a 2 episode little stint, or does he show up for is it he shows up in an episode and then that happens in the episode after that? I can't remember how that worked.
oh, Karuru.
Kaoru, yeah.
He shows up in episode 24 and that's it. And
That's it.
one of my complaints, I do have some complaints about Evangelion. One of them is that I wish Karo had been there longer. I
Yeah.
needed more than one episode of this kid. It felt like he and Shinji made like this soul bond in 5 minutes, and you're just like, why couldn't he have shown up like 5 episodes ago? Like, I get why he's there. It's because Asuka is like, she's gone. They needed to like plug somebody into her slot or whatever, but I wish they'd found a way to put him in earlier. But yeah, one episode he's there.
Yeah. It does feel like it. I will say that as good as the last section of episodes is, the last, I don't know, 8 or 9 episodes or something, is sometimes they do feel super, super dense. And that's an episode that's very dense. And it feels like it would have been nice to have had a little more time for that character building to breathe, because it feels like it is so abbreviated, and it still works, even, which is a testament to how well the writing is done.
Yeah.
But it would have been nice to have like a character episode before the second half of that episode with it.
Yeah.
Would have been nice. But to develop that relationship, like you said, a little bit more, to see a little bit more of those have a few more of those moments.
Mhm.
While all that stuff's happening, it's like we're also getting like all these like reveals that are happening with all this. So you have all this character drama. Shinji's freaking out because of everything that has to. He's just made this like soul bond with this other kid, right? And now he's like being like, oh hey, this is, by the way, this is somebody who's going to kill all of us, so you have to kill him. It's kind of what, like, that's ostensibly like what he's sort of being presented with, like he's the enemy, you
Yeah.
know. And Shinji's like, no, he's my friend. He's the only person. He's like maybe the only person I've ever connected to in my entire life. Is kind of what he seems to say. He's sort of like, this is the one person who actually got me, who I felt like I could chat with.
And that is one of the, I think, cruxes of Evangelion. You like Evangelion is the master of blue balls, right? And part of the reason why is because it keeps denying you character closure. There's all of these moments where you just want a character to reach across this divide and say, I'm there for you, or I can talk to you, or we're in this together. And they don't. They're like that fucking elevator. Can I swear, by the way? Is that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Because I'm going to a lot.
It's fine.
That elevator ride between Rei and Asuka. Asuka has all of these problems that she's trying to work out, but she insists on doing it by herself. So instead of reaching out to people that might consider her a friend even, she can only be antagonistic because she has to be better than everyone around her. And it's the same thing with Misato and Shinji and like every other character. They all have these moments where you hope that they have a moment of connecting properly. But right from the start of the show, you're told about the hedgehog's dilemma. This idea that if you're a hedgehog and you've got all these spines or like these spikes sticking out of you, you will hurt people if they come close to you. And all of these characters have reasons to believe that if they try to get close to people, they'll hurt them somehow, which is what happens in Evangelion over and over. Shinji keeps hurting people by being an Eva pilot or just by not knowing how the fuck to interact. And then Karu comes along, and it's this one. It's like this big exhale of being like, finally, there's somebody that he might. And then, after he kills Karu, he's on the shore with Misato and trying to, in a very feeble way, make this vain connection to her. And he says, he's the only person who told me that he loves me or has a connection to me or says he cares about me. And then there's this long silence. Misato doesn't return the favor. She just says, like, he didn't have a will to live, and we do, and that's why we are going to survive. And then he's like, that's fucking cold. He's not getting the emotional reaction he wants, and then the episode ends.
Right.
And then no more story.
That's true. Yeah, and that's what's crazy. And that's so. Yeah. So if you're still here, maybe hopefully you know this, but the last 2 episodes of Evangelion are all like mind space episodes. Like, I don't know, I can't for certain put my finger on any incident that happens in the last 2 episodes of Evangelion and say that was actually really happening. It's all like a projection of the mind, so to speak, or sort of like cerebral interactions. It's amazingly done, but they're super, super dense. And I think it's some of the best thing I've ever seen, like literally on TV. Like it's
Yep.
just amazing. So well handled. I don't know if I've ever seen anything where that really good, like is like unafraid to dive all the way into that pool. Just, it's one of those things, like if you were to walk in on somebody seeing that and you didn't watching that episode, you didn't know what they were watching, be like, what the hell is this?
Yeah. But
But when you're watching it and you understand all the references, and when these in this mind space, these characters are asking each other questions, and they just keep asking the exact same question over and over again, because the first answer to the question that this character gives is like the surface answer. They're like, why do you want this? Because of this. Why do you want this? Because of this. Why do you want this? And you can see that, like, they just, all they do is keep asking the same question, or a different character asks the exact same question.
yeah.
And you can see them like slowly chipping away at their like
Facades.
yeah, like their public persona.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Like, Evangelion is all about the facades we put up between ourselves, the shields, the force fields that we put up, the AT fields. So
Right.
it's canonically connected to the angels, because every angel in the show has a force field called an AT field, and it shows later on in the show that humans do as well, but they're psychological shields. They're not physical. So there's still intent going on with these last 2 episodes. And, like I said, this is my 4th time, I think, watching all the way through Evangelion. There were other times where I would only watch half or whatever. So I'm very familiar with the story, but I still notice things about those last 2 episodes. I was taking notes. I've got like a page full of notes just of the last 2 episodes. It's amazing how many little details are plot, but you don't know that, because, like, if you are fresh to, if you only see it the one time, which I guess goes back to what I was saying about understanding why people didn't like it. But if you've only seen it once, you can't get everything out of it that you're supposed to.
Mm-mm.
So if you had a TV at the time, like, what are you supposed to do? Like,
Right.
luckily, you might be lucky enough to get it on tape if you set up a recording, but not everyone had a VCR. But yeah, so there's just so many little hints in the show that lead up to making the instrumentality section feel a little bit more natural. The main one being that you're told over and over that instrumentality is coming once the final angel is destroyed. You don't know what it is,
Right.
but you know it's coming.
True.
And you're told straight up, this is instrumentality now. And you're like, okay. And then there's also this interrogation aspect that you mentioned. interrogation has been a thing that we've seen in the main storyline like 3 or 4 times. Shinji got interrogated by Misato. I think Misato got interrogated by Seiya. Fuyutsuki did, and Ritsuko did as well. And the last time, the last time we see in interrogation, it's Ritsuko, and she's nude. And what do you see in like this the second episode of the instrumentality? I think you see Shinji being interrogated, and he's nude. So there's like these weird connections going on. And you're like, what the? And I finally think I started to figure it out on my fourth rewatch of the show. Which just goes to show, like, it's not just random. It's not just that they ran out of budget, although they did run out of budget. There's real intent going on.
Yeah, it's too focused for it to be like, oh, we'll just make up some story to finish this episode. I don't feel that way. I definitely feel like it was intent, and it just, if they had had more, then they would have stretched it out a little bit more, because it could use a little more room to breathe. Like you said, it's super dense. You do have to, you don't have to take notes, but they definitely help you to make connections that it would be hard to make otherwise. And yeah, and if you were watching when it came out, oops, I missed an episode. Well, you're gonna have a real hard time.
Mhm.
If you missed like episode 20, if you missed episode 25 and you came in, or 24 and you came in on 25, you're like, what's going on right now?
So, if you had to summarize the last 2 episodes, like what would like the 1 sentence or 2 sentence summary be of what happened?
Shinji is having like um is mentally having like a breakdown, or like a crisis. And what and essentially the episode ends, and which I think is absolutely beautiful, and I said perfectly hand, when he actually has a complete breakthrough, and it literally is a breakthrough on screen. Like he like understands like that he feels that he has no value, and that he has to, like, he's sort of like believes that he should do things for a certain reason, but the reasons are not really very good reasons. They're just sort of like he's been doing everything he's been doing because he feels that it's required of him, or it's what he really wants. But then he comes to understand that that isn't what he wants, and that what he wants inside is just as valuable, and that he's valuable, where he didn't believe any of those things. It's just beautiful, honestly. I mean, I couldn't believe how well it was done. I just couldn't. Well, I'm sorry, I don't know
Yeah.
how good that an answer that
No,
is.
that's totally fine. Yeah, no. There's so many ways you can look at those last 2 episodes. Like you said, you had like 1 or 2 answers you said, and that what you just said is fundamentally what is happening in my mind too. In terms of Shinji, that's what's going on. But you said there was another interpretation that you had, or is that?
Well, I guess so. That would be like what is happening for Shinji, but like in terms of the show, then I imagine that what we're seeing is instrumentality sort of like happening, or at least happening for Shinji, because that whole those last 2 episodes is all basically Shinji, but it seems like it's Rei and Asuka too. Um,
And Misato.
Essentially, and we go, yeah, asking each other questions, right? And that's how they, like I said, they do this like repetition of a question. Sometimes the exact same person, the exact same question, over and over and over again, and you can see it eroding the sort of psychic defense that whoever is being asked the question has. Like, I pilot Avas because it's the right thing to do, and it's like, well, why do you pilot Avas? Because it makes me feel good. And then, and it's like you can see like their answer gets eroded and eroded and eroded until it sort of breaks through their, I guess, their AT field, I guess you could say, their psychic defense, to get down to the root of why they really do it. And then when they get to that, sometimes they're scared of it, or they're worried about it. But sometimes, like for Shinji, it's like an epiphany. He realizes like, hey, this is what I really think, and that's okay, and that's good, and it's like this amazing therapy session,
Mhm.
right? But which I think is I don't know if I'm quite right here, but I think that's kind of what instrumentality is sort of like the psychic sphere of humanity sort of eroding, and so we can do that with each other. We can help, like being connected mentally, we can help heal each other or help, uh, you know, sort of get through all the BS that we have sort of built up about ourselves and what's expected of us, and get down to what we really are. That's, I think, what instrumentality is kind of coming at. I think you kind of hinted at to me or something at some point in one of our earlier discussions, but
Mhm.
I think that's kind of what's going on.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess that's one thing we can totally get into here is what is. I mean, you've already sort of given it to me. Is like what your impression of instrumentality is. Now, just before we did this, I rewatched episode 25 and 26 just to refresh myself, and it's kind of interesting how much the show tells you explicitly about what is happening, but you still don't necessarily understand it because it's given to you in a somewhat abstract way. um, like you're told that people are melding their hearts together to shore up their weaknesses by becoming one, and that's something that you've seen hinted at in Evangelion before. There's that, remember when, I think it's when Shinji gets, it's either when Shinji gets absorbed by the Shadow Angel, or it's when Shinji synchronizes so much with his Eva that he blends in with it and becomes like an empty floating suit. um, and in one of those sequences, you see the scene where all the women in his life are like advancing on him and saying, "Become one with me, Shinji. Become one with me." And then we're being told that that has happened. Everyone has been, So, what is the other case of that happening? Oh yeah, the sex scene. Shinji watches Misato's sex scene, and Misato is like, why can he see this? Why is he able to access this in me now? So there are definitely strong hints at what's going on. Uh, but yeah, this idea of like Shinji has had this huge mental breakdown, and what does that mean in the context of instrumentality? And we see him shut off from everybody, and he's being all hateful and shit. And he's like, there's no point being my own person because the world is pain. And then they show him, well, maybe individuality does have a place. So there's this sort of like back and forth little argument with himself about how you can go on living when your purpose is gone. He can't be an Ava pilot anymore because there's no more angels.
Mm-hmm.
He's completely compromised who he is as a person by killing
Right.
Kaoru. And it doesn't seem like anybody wants to connect with him because of Misato rebuffing him at the end of the episode. So he's completely adrift. And then you come to find that every other character is adrift, but they're being forced to confront that. There's no more escaping this. There's no more like shunning or cold shoulders or anything we've seen throughout the whole show. Something has happened to make it so they literally cannot hide from each other if they tried.
Yeah, yeah, and it's, yeah, and Shinji is the kind of the focus of those last two, but I mean Rei and Asuka are also, and Misato are also all part of that. They have to go through that same sort of, or we see them seem to go through that same treatment of
Mm-hmm.
questions being directed at them, and them sort of like tough questions, like very piercing questions, and them trying to cope with it, and then try to, and have to provide an answer.
Yeah, no, it's a really weird thing to do at the end of an anime, especially like there's so many little sections. Like I tried to break down these episodes into segments to make them a little bit easier to parse. And yeah, so it's interesting. So it's episode 25 and 26. The first bit of episode 25 is pre-instrumentality, in my opinion. So
Mhm.
it's where Shinji is before instrumentality starts. And there's a
Yes.
lot of little plot things that are shown. I don't know if you remember all the visuals. I almost feel like I'm spoiling. No, I shouldn't even say it that way. There's little clips that are shown. Do you remember when there's a point in the first half of episode 25 where it shows Misato, or it shows Asuka inside of the Ava unit again. And she's in a fetal position, and it zooms out, and it shows that her Ava unit is underwater. And she's asking, I don't remember getting in the Ava. Why am I in the Ava? And
Yes, I do remember that.
what is happening? And then, do you remember any of the other visuals? Do you remember anything about Misato?
I don't. I probably, if you say them, I would remember them, but I can't recall them offhand.
Okay, I don't want to. Okay, I don't. If you remember it on your own volition,
Oh
I'll let you. But then there's this other visual. This last thing we see, I feel like I'm like
no.
throwing hints. I don't even know if I should be. But there's this last thing we see where it's like Gendo is with Ray for like a split second. He's like, "Come with me. It's time to do what we've been planning for." And then the next thing you see, it says instrumentality begins on the screen.
Oh, that's right.
And you're like, what? So, me watching it back, I realized the first episode of episode 25, there's no instrumentality. It's literally story beats of what is happening in the plot before, but it's shown in the most obtuse fucking way possible. So, you're not going to get it the first time you see it. And then instrumentality begins for the next episode and a half. And it shows like everybody. It even shows Gendo, and he's like, "Instrumentality is necessary. It's the only way that humanity can survive. What's coming next?" And you're not really sure what that is. And then it's like this interview and this interrogation thing, and then it zeroes in on Shinji at the end, and then it's like, "Hey Shinji, you're in the driver's seat. We're not sure why, but you are. And here's your set, and you're the director." So he's set up like a director looking at a stage, and he's been watching this interrogation play out on the stage in front of him, including
Mm-hmm.
another Shinji on the stage. And then he's like, okay, you're in charge. You're the director of this little theater play we've got going on. What do you want? And then we go into like alternate reality world, and it's him in an idealized, stereotypical anime school slice of life thing.
That's right. It's so and it's funny. Obviously, it's doing some work there, but it's also such a great psychic break too for a minute to let you to like relieve the tension a little bit because it's been so tense for so long in the series, and it's like this very silly thing. Of course, it's other things are going on, but I just love that
Hmm.
we got that little moment, right?
Yeah, and what I almost quite don't understand is, I guess, like I'm trying to recall like line for line what happens. So we see this whole thing play out, and we know it's fake, and we know that Shinji's deciding it because earlier on we had seen him like floating in space as a drawing and being
Yeah,
like,
right.
okay, there's no up, there's no down, there's everything is arbitrary. And then someone's like, well, give yourself ground to walk on. And so he invents a line for him to walk on, and then he builds and builds until we get the school thing. And then he's like, but this isn't reality though. And he's just like, but this version of you exists inside of you. And then it gets into this idea of like how other people perceive you, and how there's many different versions of you, and they exist inside of yourself and inside of everyone else. And Shinji's like, but I don't want that version of me. It sucks. Yeah. And then, yeah, like you said, it's like this really big cathartic moment of being like, but maybe it can be better.
Yeah.
um, I don't know. And I guess within the context of just the show, if we're leaving everything else out of it, it can be seen as like he's finally being free of the responsibility of being an Ava pilot,
Hmm.
which I think is a big part of what's going on there. And I also love it. It denied like nobody gets together really in the show. There's no love interests precisely.
Yeah, you would think that like that Shinji and either Ray or Asuka are going to be like have a romantic interest in each other, and that really never materializes. Nothing like that. Even though it's sort of, I think at the beginning there's some suggestion that it might happen,
Yep.
but by a certain point you're just it's like that's not going to happen, or it doesn't seem like it really is.
Yeah.
But then, of course, in that little slice of life sort of imaginary set, we do sort of see that, right? Asuka's interested in Shinji, and Rei is like the new girl in school, and he meets her, and and he's kind of interested in her, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
they set it up like a love triangle.
right.
It's like they're making fun of the audience because they're doing whole show has been like anti-romance, if anything, up until this point, and you can't do that to an anime audience. They ship everybody together, so it makes sense that in the last episode they almost taunt you with it.
Yeah.
Like,
It,
see, we could have done a love triangle direction, but you've seen that shit before, and this is Evangelion.
Yeah, I would totally say the Evangelion like subverts all the expectations. Like it totally says like, "Oh, I'm like you big fighty robots, right?" And it's like, well, this isn't going to be that kind of anime, really. It's like we're going to subvert that, or it's going to be that, but it's not going to be it the way that you think it will be.
Mhm.
And yeah, you think that these characters are going to have romantic interests in each other, but in reality, they're also tortured and messed up, but you don't really find out exactly what that's why their reactions are the way they are until much later,
Mhm.
because they can't connect. I mean, that would be sort of weird for them it would be such a surface level connection, right? They can't have romantic interest in each other because they can't even like get their own shit together.
And
um,
I think what's interesting though is that they dangle the potential in front of you that if they were in a better place, that it could have been possible. At least between Asuka and Shinji, especially earlier on. But it's their own issues kind of make it like look at the way that okay, there's a few times where Asuka kind of makes moves on Shinji. Shinji doesn't know what to do about it.
she
Or
like literally forces him to kiss her, right?
that's what I was
And
just
then
gonna say by smothering him.
right,
She grabs his face and pinches his nose so he stops like nose breathing against her face while they're kissing. And he almost like strangles while they're doing that, and then she runs into the bathroom to start gargling and screaming and like, oh, it's so gross. It's so funny. And then
yeah,
the other, I know there was another instance, but I can't. Oh, when the first episode where they're living together and she accidentally wanders into his room while she's like half asleep and she starts calling for her mother. Like obviously that was not intentional, but it was another moment of being like, okay, there's weird intimacy issues, and you almost even get a hint of why Asuka fails with intimacy because she's calling out for her mother, and then you learn about that later on. And so even as early as like episodes 7 and 8, you're getting these huge hints for the trauma that's welling underneath the surface.
yeah. And
Uh,
it's like, and Asuka is just wants to grow up. She's like in such a hurry to be an adult, and to be seen as an
oh,
adult. Yeah. And
those
the way that she comes on
Haji.
to Kaji, where she's like trying to like, like, oh, hey, don't you want to be with me? And he's like, yeah, no. He just doesn't. He
Yeah,
doesn't even say no. He just isn't interested. He's like, well, I don't know if he calls her a kid or anything, but just he never like completely rebuffs her. But you can tell that he's not interested. But the reason he doesn't rebuff her would because I think he knows that it would crush her. So
exactly.
he just sort of like remains aloof because he knows that like that if he were to deny her that it would just she couldn't handle it.
Yeah, well, he lets her down gentle. I think that anime is often in a really scummy territory with things like that happening on screen. I think Evangelion plays it well. I think it's fine I think it's fine to depict teenagers having crushes on grown adults because that's what I experienced. Like I knew people with crushes on teachers or celebrities. That's a better example probably because I think every teenager had like a pet celebrity crush that was a grown ass adult or whatever. But the way that Kaji puts her down is, I think, totally fine.
Yeah,
It's not like, oh, maybe it'll happen. I've seen other animes do that, and it's gross. But
yeah, right.
yeah, and it happens right on the ship. If you look at that scene, I didn't even realize this on the first thing, but it happens in flashback. You're seeing the scene right before the day that Asuka meets Misato and Shinji and
Oh, that's
everyone else.
right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff that sort of rides the line in Evangelion with teenagers discovering their sexuality or starting to commit to it or whatever. And so obviously it's treading on a very razor thin line, especially if you see what anime can be like, which is why I said like one of my least favorite things about Evangelion in general is the fan service moments. It's very unfortunate, but it is there. But it doesn't happen as much as other anime, and I think um, I think the movie is basically well, there's a lot of condemnation of that kind of attitude in Evangelion's own text. So,
Hmm.
it kind of balances out for me in the grand scheme of things. But yeah.
I think it's kind of. I think I don't know because most of any of that happens is very early, and I feel as though it's still sort of putting on the mask of being a traditional mecha anime. I don't know. I kind of thought the same thing. Like, well, that's weird, but then it just stops. So I kind of feel like maybe that's part of the facade,
Mhm.
or at least I can look at it that way. I don't know if that's 100% accurate. It does handle a lot of like relationship problems. Of course, with Asuka not really wanting to be an adult so bad, and then I think Shinji was somewhat interested in Ray, and Ray is just like completely like not there. Like doesn't have any. Doesn't even like that's not even a thing that she thinks about. It's like you can tell it's like she has no shame, and it's not because she's flaunting it. She just doesn't even think of herself as an object or a person who can be like interested in other people in that way.
Yeah.
The only person that she's interested in is Gendo, who is like a father figure to her, and you can see the only reactions you ever get out of Ray are when she can please Gendo. And
Yeah.
like when she can do something that Gendo wants, that's it. And apart from that, like everything else is just like, hi. And it's just like flat.
Yeah. Until Ray number 3. And then she doesn't even care about Gendo. It's so, oh God. I'm sorry. I love Evangelion so much. So,
It's so much fun to talk about. And there's so much to
yeah.
talk about. It's awesome.
Yeah, so with Ray, yeah, it's totally interesting because, like you said, they do play into some of the tropes that you see a lot in anime, but they kind of spit in your face for expecting them to play out normally. One good example happens early on between Ray and Shinji, like you said, it kind of maybe something's going to happen. And then Shinji goes and visits Ray's apartment, and then he doesn't see her. He goes in, and then he wears Gendo's glasses, which are like the object of curiosity in that episode. That's when Ray comes out nude, which has gross implications if you think about it for half a second. And then he does the classical, whoa, clumsy me. And then he trips and falls onto her with one hand right on her breast and whatever. And it's just like it lingers and it's viscerally uncomfortable in a way. Like, I don't know how much anime you watch, but that thing of like, oh, tripping and falling and grabbing the person's breast, it happens in so many anime. It's obnoxious. And in Evangelion, it lingers on, it doesn't play it for laughs. It makes you like squirm in your seat. I've never seen that scene fail to land. And then you realize that Ray doesn't care. And then Ray, you're like, okay, so it is like nothing happening in her head. And then later on in the episode, Shinji complains about his father, and Ray slaps him across the face, and you're like, oh my god, there is something in her. Oh
Yeah,
my god,
one of the only emotional reactions you ever get out of her is stuff like that. Yeah, that's awesome. I
yeah,
forgot about
that's
her
the
slapping
word.
him.
And what's so interesting is that, so for me, I don't find Ray that interesting as a person, as a character, whatever. But her lore is interesting. The lore around Ray is super fascinating. But until this last watch through that we just did together, I realized that there's more to Ray going on than meets the eye. It's just that in anime, you expect emotions to always be big and hyperbolic and very obviously like easy to read, whatever. But Ray has moments in the last few episodes where you're realizing that she cares a lot about Shinji in ways that are very sort of subtle. So in episode 16, I can't remember what angel it is that they're fighting, but it starts off with Ray with Shinji makes some kind of comment about Ray being affectionate and maybe even being suited to something like a mother. And Ray, as we know, has the soul of his mother in her, but we don't know that yet. But she has this moment where it looks like that means a lot to her. And so you forget about it. You know it, like if you know in the story, then you know in the back of your mind why that line is emphasized. But then later in the episode, they're ordered to pull back. And Ray hesitates. Out of all of them, Ray hesitates because Shinji might be in danger. Um, and so Ray says, "But what about Shinji?" And then you cut to Asuka, who has been assuming that Ray is an empty doll, and this look crosses her face. She's like, "Did I hear that?" And then it's not acknowledged at all. So basically, what happens is, fall back now. Ray's like, "What about Shinji?" And then it's like it's an order, and then they fall back. But if you're paying attention, you're just like, "Wait, Ray wouldn't say that." And wait, why did Asuka pay attention to that? And then a few episodes later, you have that big blowout about how, oh, Shinji's the best. Oh, everyone likes Shinji. And then she
Oh
punches a
yes.
locker, and then her blowing up at Ray about being just a doll because she only obviously has affection for select few people. It's just a really interesting, subtle buildup over episodes that there's more going on with Ray than even I thought as a fan.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I mean, it is. There's a lot of very subtle work going on, and it's really interesting too when Asuka calls Ray a doll because Asuka is very has very strong thoughts about being a doll. She doesn't want to be a doll. She doesn't want to be that. There's a whole connection with her mother, which I thought that was a really that like that statement worked in a few ways,
Yes.
which I thought was awesome.
And it will continue to work when you see the movie.
But I see the movie.
Keep that in mind because it also works on the level of the Avas. What are the Avas? They are dolls made from Adam. And Asuka, like after the sync rate starts to falter with Asuka, she stands in front of the angel and she says, "You are my doll." So she's bringing that trauma back and inflicting it on the things around her by calling them dolls to say, all you do is listen to other people. She asserts herself as a person by being vocally not a doll. She won't do what other people say. That's why she's headstrong. And that's why, she makes everything into this life or death struggle because that's literally what it was. That's how she avoided being killed by her mother,
Yeah.
who loved a doll more than she loved her. Um, so it's this really well built in way of justifying how Asuka is as a character. Like even when I read a lot of literary fiction, I don't get character writing this multifaceted. So I just
Yeah.
there's so many ways I can be impressed by Evangelion's subtlety.
I've read many books that didn't have anywhere near the character development that this series has, and really good books do.
Do you want to talk about the actual Ava battles, or do you want to like go off into the woods and talk about like Nerve and the Marduk Institute and all that shit? Like, how do we want to do this?
So let's do a little bit. Let's do the battles. Let's talk a little bit about that. And then we should probably do a little bit of like the deep lore, talk a bit about it at least. I was gonna say if we didn't make it to that, it'd be okay. We can always do it next time, but then that might be good to sort of see what we know so far. Although I'm not sure how much I could talk about it because I just don't because it still feels a little muddy to me.
I could help explain
That's good.
when we get to
I won't stop you.
it. Okay.
So let's talk about Nerve and what is Nerve. So that's the organization, to my understanding, the organization that sort of like funds these AVAs. That's I want to say that Nerve essentially makes this whole is this Tokyo 3? Is that what we're calling? Is that what it is?
Yep.
Yeah. They sort of like basically that's their city. And something that we learned really early on is that all the like skyscrapers and structures can like sink into the ground and like not just like go down and go flat, but like they protrude down into like this giant under earth cavern that exists.
which exists. Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I was going to make sure that you cottoned on to, is that was already there.
right,
Not only that, but there's a sister crater in Antarctica, and that's where Adam was.
right. And
Man, that
and, and, and that's related to isn't that related to the second impact, or because we hear about the second impact, but we never, but that was something else too. Like, but I was always like, what? I'm like, am I missing something? Did I not understand which one was the first impact? And I
yeah,
don't know if we have that in the series.
you're
I don't know if
told that the first impact refers to the impact of the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs.
okay.
But I can't remember if the show gets into more about the first impact or if it's not until the movie.
I
If
don't
you
think
don't
it.
know, then that's a
I don't
sign
think
that
I don't think it does. It doesn't mean I didn't miss something, because I totally could have. So okay, but the second impact is what happened around the year 2000,
yep,
right? That's when Lilith that comes to, or no,
that was Adam.
Adam, Adam.
Adam
Okay,
is the big white glowing thing. You see still images of it, and you see like that found video footage.
that's right,
Remember that episode how it starts, and then you're like, oh my god, and then yeah. So that is Adam.
right. Yeah, right. I forgot. There's that found footage
Shoots.
episode that doesn't start normal. It starts with that found footage, and you get like this disaster footage, and then the episode starts, and that's okay. So that's Adam.
And then
That,
Adam became a fetus after I can't remember how this works. I think it's like it got sealed back in, or after it was after the impact. So they find Adam, the impact begins, and it basically wipes out life on Earth. And I'm pretty sure after the impact, or because of the impact, Adam gets returned to like this fetal state. This tiny little thing that looks like a skeleton fetus on a slide, which Gendo later inserts into his hand. um, but do you know what the thing on the cross is?
that that's
Because
that's Lilith, right?
okay. I just
Okay.
want to make sure you knew, because I always get confused about what gets revealed in the movie versus the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does get revealed. So Kaoru goes down, believing. So you're told all through the show, if Adam and an angel make contact, then it begins a third impact, which will likely uh, finish and conclude. The second impact did not conclude because there's still people alive. The
Okay.
third impact will wipe out life, basically. Or it will turn life into a new state. So Kaoru goes down to make contact with
Right. The angel that Shinji made friends with, he turns out he seemed like an EVA pilot. He's actually an angel. He just like goes down into the, what is it, the something dogma?
Terminal Dogma.
Terminal dogma, that's right.
Yeah, there's Central Dogma, which is way higher. That's where all that creepy shit with Ray was going on. And then
Right.
there's Terminal Dogma right at the bottom, which, can I just give a second to appreciate the naming conventions of Evangelion? It's
Yes.
incredible. Like, the Terminal Dogma sounds badass, and also it's, when you realize it, you realize it's nonsense. What the hell does that mean? Terminal meaning like when you die, and
Right.
dogma as in like religious code. And what's down there? There's a crucified angel who's being held in place by the spear of Longinus. Longinus is a biblical figure who speared Jesus Christ while he was hanging on the cross to make sure he was dead. Terminal dogma. There's a lot of really smart naming conventions.
Right.
Um, but yeah, he goes down there and he takes one look at Adam and he's like, oh shit, I screwed up. And then when Shinji comes, he's like, I just kill me. I'm done. And you realize that's because he thought he was facing Adam. That's what everyone said was down there. But unbeknownst to Sayla, uh, Gendo Akari, completely on his own, went rogue agent and did a switcheroo with the naming. He has Adam, not the angel. So he's like, oh, this is Lilith. That's where the humans come from. I'm not going to be able to do anything down here. And then he lets himself die because he has no more will to live.
Yeah. And it does take, I would say it takes a bit to piece that information together. You get like you said, like one viewing, it's like you would have to have perfect recall of all the episodes.
Yep.
to be able to piece that back together. And I didn't even realize um, what Gendo had done until I think you said, well, did you see this one like one or two little frames that you
Yeah.
get like one little moment? And I'm like, I do remember seeing that. Is that what that was?
Yeah, and it's so frustrating to me because I swear to gosh, I had not seen that frame before until I so when we were doing this, just to fill the audience in, we both well, obviously you watched it, but I rewatched it for maybe the fourth time, whatever, and then I went back and watched the last half again. So I watched it 1.5 times, but like so I watched it through again, and then I watched the movie, and then in the movie, I'm just like, okay, something happens, and it made me be like, did the show cover this? Because how did the movie start with this being the state of affairs? So I went back and I combed it, and then I saw the scene where it shows Adam in Gendo's hand, and I'm like, I swear I've never seen this before. Like this is my fourth time watching the show, and I swear I must have been like had my head down because I was like eating food or something every time that clip came because it's only like 2 seconds.
It's
And
super short. And I when you showed me, I'm like, I do remember seeing that scene. I remember and thinking, whoa, what's that? And I was like, well,
yeah,
obviously we're gonna revisit it, and we don't.
because I was like, wait, but Karuru realizes that a switch has been made just by seeing Lilith on the cross. But how do we know that a switch has been made? There's nothing to indicate that in the show. He just looks at it and scoffs and realizes he's done, but we don't know why.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm just like, this must be something that I missed. So I rewatched it. I watched the episode like twice in a row, and I saw the clip, and I'm like, oh my god, okay. So Gendo has had Adam with him, but nobody knows that except for him, Fuyutsuki, and Kaji, who delivered Adam to him in the first place.
I thought that it would get revisited, and it didn't. And it was only when you talked about it, and maybe you showed me like, hey, it's like this. I'm like, oh, I remember this. I'm like, that starts to make sense to me now. I guess going back a little bit,
Yeah, we have
Nerve is like in this cat, like they have this. So that's my understanding of Nerve. Go to bring this all the way back. The organization that runs the city. They have make these buildings descend into this cavern under the city. Um, Essentially, they're the corporation that this is after. And I guess too, it's maybe important to say that like I think the idea is that the angels are like attacking Earth, but it's really more like they're attacking Nerve. It's like, and it's and I think that's sort of a really great misdirection is that you sort of lead in, you're like, oh, the angel, all of humanity is in danger, or they want to kill all humans, and this is how, and they're just ravaging the earth. But then whenever you like watch what it seems like the public's reaction to the angels, there's a lot of skepticism and like, oh, maybe we'll defund Nerve or something like that. It seems like, and you're like, why would they want to do? Isn't this like the essential thing for all humanity to live is for us to stop the angels? And it was only like later thinking about it, like, oh, they're not really attacking the earth. They're after Nerve, or they're going after Nerve, even though that could mean the end of humanity.
So, do you think that the angels are after Nerve specifically, or something that Nerve is doing or has? Like,
They want something that Nerve has. I'm not certain precisely why they want it so bad, but that's what that's what my impression.
okay. So, can I say? Like,
Yeah.
it's not a spoiler. It's in the show. But it's what Karu is after. It's Adam. They're
Yeah.
after Adam. If they can do that, then they will create a third impact, which will be finalized. Is the idea anyway? Now you're told that angels aren't supposed to be able to coordinate or communicate with one another, so they're all each angel you see is acting completely independently. But I get the impression that that's not true.
Yeah, me too, because because every angel that we see in the show is always ratcheting up its ability. It's always like informed, it seems, by the last encounter. Like, oh, you guys did this last time. Well, how about this? Like, there's never like I think like the one of the first fights is like a stand-up fight with an angel, and it's like you don't ever, it never gets easier. The fights are always tougher, more weird, more esoteric.
Yeah, some of like the angel thing is kind of funny because some of them are like a big step forward in what we believe angels are capable of. And then a lot of them do feel a bit episode like villain of the week. But yeah, you notice when one of them comes like for example, like there's that one that looks like a spider that just kind of like cries acid out of this big eyeball. Like that one's in the middle of the show. It doesn't seem any more dangerous than any of the others. It's just it happens when a blackout is occurring, and then the people are like, somebody made this blackout happen. We don't know who. We're never going to answer who, but somebody made it happen, and an angel just happened to show up. But it happened to be like a middling angel. But then a couple episodes later, you'll get one that like the series of angels that start like mind breaking the pilots. Those are my favorite episodes. Right. Literally doing like a psychic connection. It's like the instrumentality scenes where now we're in the character's head and we're gonna watch crazy stuff happen for 15 minutes. Like Shinji sitting on the bus with a shadow version of himself or whatever.
There was one of the later angels that talks about someone's, I think it was Misato, says something like, oh, this angel's trying to make first contact or something like that. I'm not certain if I quite understand it, having discussed this so far, how that relates to everything else per se.
It's that line kind of comes up either when Asuka is having her mind messed with, which is so disturbing, or the time that Rei has her mind messed with.
It's
I
right.
think
It's
is
one of them.
Super interesting because the one with Asuka is like this beam of light from heaven with like classical music, like like it's the most obvious Christian imagery, and when it happens, she says, "I feel like I've been violated." It's like a big confessional of like the sins that she's been involved with or whatever. In this case, her mother trying to kill her. So sins that she's been affected by, I guess, is more to the point. But yeah, then she says like, "Oh, I feel like I've been violated. I've been soiled, and it's inside me." Like there's a lot of like innuendo with that one. And then same thing with Rei, where it like worms into her body, and then you see this like big Rei face in like ghost form coming out of the. Oh, it's so creepy.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, so we can see why first contact might not be something they want. It's like it erodes the boundary between the person and the angel, and they just become one thing, which is what happens to Toji, the fourth pilot.
I found, I guess, bringing up Koji, that it was an interesting episode too, because it was interesting because they like keep obscuring telling Shinji who the new pilot is. Everybody keeps saying, "Oh, you don't know, you don't know, you don't know." Which, like,
I hate that.
Yeah, I was like, why are we doing? I'm like, I'm not really sure why we're having such a hard time telling him who the new pilot is.
It's one of those things where it's so obviously for the benefit of only the audience to have it go like that, where like it reminds me of Naruto. Naruto is a classic example of an anime that's just so over excessive, and it makes all these, it's just very corny. And one of the ways that Naruto is corny is that it'll keep being like, do you mean that ninja? Or do you mean that jutsu? You're not going to use that jutsu, are you? And it's like, no human being would talk like this. Like, come on, man. Even if you told us the name of the person or the jutsu or whatever, it wouldn't make any difference to us because we haven't been introduced to them yet. Right. So with this one, you wish they had found a better way to make it like, you don't know that the pilot is, and then they get interrupted.
Yeah. Oh, wait, no, I can't tell you. I can't tell you. And it's like, why can't you?
Well, I do like how Asuka taunts him with it. It's like, well, if you don't need to know, or like you don't need to know because you don't know already. So, like that's something Asuka would do. So that's fine.
Right. It's in character. Right. It makes sense.
Find other ways to contrive it so that Shinji doesn't find out until literally. But
too late.
Man, that angel fight is brutal.
Yeah, it is. Right. And that's where we get like a real tonal shift between the Avas, and we find out that they're not just robot suits, that there's a whole lot more going on. And I think there's been some hints of that already, but the hints were just there, and then like they just were left, and so we had nothing to work with. So so it's been so long since we've seen it by that point in the show that when this finally happens, it's just like very shocking, right? And this imagery is shocking with it too. It's like blood literally seeming to be splashed everywhere.
Like the episode where he fights Unit 3 and then the episode following are, in my opinion, those are the two best mech fights in the show, or they're the two best fight scenes in the show because, well, first of all, the animation budget just goes through the roof. Like they are adding frames, like everything's been done in like 3s and 2s, and now they're animating on 1s, and it's just so fluid and beautifully animated. There's so much gore. It's so bloody. And then yeah, so like he fights Unit 3 in one episode, and then he says, I don't want to be a pilot anymore. And he makes his second attempt to leave, and then he's in the shelter, and Unit Two's head like crashes through, and he's like, I gotta be a pilot again, don't I? And then he goes and fights again, but this is where his sync rate goes so high that he merges with the fucking angel, with the Ava, and shreds that angel and eats it.
Right.
Those two episodes are back to back. It's so good, and so yeah, it's a really good demarcation of how dark the show becomes because you're not even given any time to breathe. You have to process so much like baggage between those two fights, and then those two fights are like unflinchingly violent in a way that is so bizarre for anime of the time. Like obviously anime could be violent, but usually it was like movies, like Akira or something.
And the other thing too, because after that fight, you see like some of the like armor plating peel away, and it's not just circuitry underneath there. It's like there's
Flesh.
tissue or something, and you're like, oh no, I didn't know. Like, oh yeah, the suits are just there to contain it, to control it. And it's like, oh wow, and there's this like very horrific image of like what we've already seen, where like the Ava's like sitting in like a pool of fluid that's like usually up to like, so it's just a bust, just the
Yeah.
shoulders up or whatever that's revealed. And then now you have that same thing with Unit 1, but it's like half of its armor pulled away. There's these weird bandages underneath there, and it's very creepy and great.
You just, oh my God, I just made a connection I've never made before from you saying that. I've obviously seen the same stuff you have multiple times, but they're bandaged like Ray was.
Yeah.
Ray's personality is what they use to make the dummy plugs about
Right.
halfway into the show. And then there's some stuff with bandaging going on in the movie that I can't tell you about, but
Fair
yeah,
enough.
so obviously the bandaging aspect is part of it too. That's crazy. But yeah, no. There are a lot of really I love how Evangelion sets up its plot. It's clear that when Hideaki Anno started Evangelion, he knew a a good inkling of where he was going anyway, because you're right. Like they established what's going on with the Avas pretty much in the first episode. You need to be paying attention and you need to know what's coming, but they imply things that are going to come later because Shinji, I believe he runs out of power in the first fight he ever has. Like
I think so.
his plug comes undone and he runs out of batteries, but for some reason that they can't explain yet, the Ava activates anyway and keeps on fighting and goes beast mode. And they're like, we've lost control of the Ava. And this is episode 1.
Yeah. Right.
um,
Like what?
and so yeah, there's like these little hints where you know that the Ava is going to the next level when it opens its mouth. I find that's like the big indicator
Yeah.
because you have Ava with its mouth like closed and like metal or whatever, but then it like its teeth kind of break and it's like it makes like this really weird noise. Um, that's when you know things are about to get real.
Right.
And yeah, it happens a few times. And I gotta say, if you like balls to the wall fights where the Ava just goes completely unchained, you're gonna like the movie. I'm just gonna say.
Awesome.
But yeah, those the fights can be wild. A lot of them can be. I like that it. I don't know. Like I said, the fights were going to be wild, and then the first thing I thought of was the synchronized dance. So they can be a little silly too.
Well, I like that they do something like no, there's not one of these battles that's identical. Like I
Yeah.
said, I guess that's probably a better way of saying that than I say ratcheting up. But it's always a change. Like you're not no two fights are the same. There's always something else that it's not like you can't precisely use what they learned from the last fight on this fight because
Yeah.
something has changed enough where they have to pivot. And
Hmm.
of course, that's when we get to see Misato, and she's like super fast. She's like, "We'll do this, and let's do this."
Yeah.
You're like, "Damn, she's good."
Okay. That's a perfect segue for what I was just gonna say. So for me, the way that the fights were framed at the beginning were very memorable. For example, like in the first fight we see, it cuts to black and the episode ends, and then Shinji wakes up in a hospital, and we don't see the fight. And then Shinji's lying in bed, and then we hear boom, 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 and then we cut to the flashback, and then we see the fight at the end of episode 2, even though it happened like yesterday in the timeline, right? It's so, but the fights themselves are fairly typical smash 'em ups, right? So I wasn't really impressed with the fights themselves, just what was going on around them. And then we get, I believe the angel's name is Ramael, which is the big blue diamond, which goes oh as it shows
Yeah.
up. And in the rebuild series, oh my god, they soup up the animation and it makes all these terrifying vocalizations where it's just screaming bloody murder. But
Oh, cool.
anyway, I love that fight because Misato is just like, we're going to requisition all the electricity all across Japan. We're going to confiscate a gun that's in the experimental phase, and we're going to turn it into a giant ass sniper rifle that can only be fired once. And we have to account for the gravity of Earth and the curvature of the Earth because of how far away we're going to be when we shoot it. That was the episode where I'm like, I think I like this anime because it was so sci-fi and it was so weird, and the fact that they were literally hyping me up over one shot. They had one shot and I was like on the edge of my seat, like, are they gonna do it? And they only had one shot because A, it takes a really, really long time to recharge once they shoot, and B, once they shoot, they're going to give away their position, and Ramael will destroy them instantly. So you're just like, oh my fucking god. So of course they miss, and you're like, what the? And then Ray jumps in with the shield, and she's in the middle of being melted while
Yeah.
she's charging up the next blast, and then he manages to do it, and he manages to do a little bit of a Gendo move by personally getting her out of the
Oh,
plug.
that's
So
right. Yeah. There's a moment there where he sort of recreates the scene with Gendo and Ray that
yeah,
we've already seen clips of.
so that for me was the first fight where it was like, I remember where I was. You know what I mean? It was one of those things in anime where I was like, this was amazing to watch play out. That's one of my favorite fights that aren't like crazy. Like they're more about strategy than demonic shit going on.
So
Do you have any favorite fights?
lots of them are really interesting, but I think I really do like that fight where that weird it's very late. The light is like hits Ray and like all her vein. We talked about it earlier. We're all like the veins are like popping out. I don't know. I think that's really great. And there's that. I think at the very end of that part, like doesn't like it materialize like a ghost version of her. Like it's not like a weird like tube with the face on the end of it anymore. Like it becomes like a ghostly version of her. I thought that was really wonderful. I thought it was awesome. Um,
Oh
as far as a
man.
fight goes, it wasn't very fighty, right? So it was like as like an action thing. It was, but I liked that encounter, I guess, the most. I thought it was. I love the visuals from it.
So Evangelion fans are kind of split on the way that the series ends. Some fans, they resonate most with the TV show ending, others with End of Evangelion. And I've kind of been sussing you out a little bit. Are you going to like the movie or not? Because I understand if you don't. A lot of people hate the movie who love the show, okay? I think you're going to like the movie.
Okay.
Based on some of the things you've been saying, I'm like, the movie's gonna hit right with you. But yes, no, I love that fight too. I love that Ray sacrifices herself And you know what? I will say this. I think the Rebuild series, it does some things worse than the original. But I think it does that fight even better in the
Oh,
Rebuild.
okay, cool.
It's so like, because obviously, okay, Ray number 2 gets killed in this fight. It and you definitely don't feel great about it. It's a big shock and everything like that, especially when you see, oh my God, there's more Rays. um, they play it mostly the same in the Rebuild, but it's more emotional. I found myself so much more worried about Ray. I think that they build up Ray as a character you can really get invested and feel emotional about in the Rebuilds. But yeah, in the original show, it's interesting because of the fallout and because of what Ray does in that. Because, um, like I've kind of alluded to in that other episode, where it hints that Ray has deeper feelings for Shinji than is let on, where she's just like, oh, we can't fall back. What about Shinji? And then like it's a perfect setup for what she ends up how she ends up sacrificing herself later. Oh man, yeah, so it's a really great fight. I love all that surrounds it, where Shinji's just like lying on the bed and he's like, the tears won't come, Misato. What do I do?
Oh yeah, that's right.
He's so devastated about it. And then Ray 3 comes back and she's a little bit different.
Right.
Just slightly.
Oh, something I wanted to bring up too is that I thought was interesting. The council that's like, I don't
Yes.
know, they're not. It's not the Nerve Council. Are they called something else?
Sayla. Yeah, we should
Sale,
we
that's
should
right.
definitely talk about the organization stuff.
Oh, so I guess the first thing I wanted to say about it is that I thought it was interesting how earlier in the show, those are people that you get to see like around almost like around a table.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, they stop showing themselves, and now they're just like, I don't know, it's just supposed to be like a black rectangle with like it says like number one or something on it. I can't remember what exactly it says. And I guess the idea is that that's what it would look like if they don't have a video input. It's audio only. But to me, it's like these are just giant tombstones, is what it looks like. It has this like this very like this heavy death imagery or something that's going on here. And then these sort of like ghostly voices are like questioning and demanding answers from people. And I really liked that change. But of course, there's much more going on with that organization. So tell me some more about it. Tell me the things
Yeah.
I'm missing.
So the organization is called Seele, which is German for soul. Nerv is German for nerve, and Gehirn, which is what nerve used to be called. I believe I'm probably wrong about this actually. Now that I think about it, I thought it was German for heard, like you heard something, but I think I'm thinking of Gehirn, which is a different word.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not sure what it means. I know it's German though. But yeah, so Nerv was formed to deal with the angel problem, but I don't quite understand how Sailor was formed. They seem to be the ones pulling the strings of Nerv, and at least they're controlling the budget. They're allocating funds.
Hmm.
They set up Nerve. So Nerve is an organization that Sailor created, and Gendo is one of the people in this council or whatever. So they made Gendo be the one in charge of Nerve, or he connived his way to being the leader of Nerve, as you see with Ryutsuki's flashbacks. Um, but they obviously they want one thing, and Gendo seems to want the same thing too, or does he? And that's kind of where the tension comes from. But what they want is instrumentality, and you I don't know. It's kind of like you have to work out for yourself what instrumentality is.
Yeah, because it's like they don't. So what's interesting is that group of men does not seem like somebody who would be very interested in altruistic sort of endeavors, and that's what it sounds like instrumentality is. It's like this altruistic, like, oh, it'll be better for all of humanity, but it's like, but these aren't the kind of people who are interested in that. These are like these are super wealthy guys who want a thing and they have to want it for themselves. So you know, even though they're not saying that there's something nefarious that they want, but I don't know if I missed it or if it's not clear. what their goal is, what they really are, what they're hoping for. Are they trying to raise themselves up into as divinities? I mean, that's what I my mind goes to, since we're talking about all this other stuff that's happening. But it's not quite clear if that's what would happen or could happen.
Yeah, that's a normal way to feel about the show, is to be kind of bewildered about whose plans are what and what those plans will mean. And I think that's a part of the reason why the show ending pissed people off, is because you don't get a clear answer of what anybody wanted. And not only that, but a lot of plot points that were being built up as a big scary thing on the horizon don't come to pass in the show. So, for example, they keep talking about like Nerv or Sayla is building their own Avas. Why are they building them, and why are there so many? I think they say that there's nine Avas in production right now,
Might be.
and they can't ascertain any information about it other than that they're being worked on, and they're like, what is going on with the and then
Yeah,
and then they're talking about the dummy plugs, and they're just like, they won't even need pilots because this dummy plug technology exists. And we've seen that the dummy plug is not a good thing.
right.
um, so, yeah, there's all these little plot points that you don't get to see played out, or maybe you do, but it's like disguised. And now that I've watched the show, I used to think that it was essential to see the movie to understand, but now I'm thinking like, it's not. There's a lot in the show that shows you that it does resolve a lot of the plot, except for a few things. But even those things are rolled into, like, you could say Gendo. Like, who do you think comes out on top by the end of the anime? In
I
this,
mean, it can't be any of the any of our, and none of our Ava pilots. I mean, maybe I mean, Shinji, in a sense, like, does, because he has his, because you feel like he has this breakthrough. So I guess there's that. But as far as, but a more traditional coming out on top, it doesn't seem like any of our main cast. It would seem like maybe only Gendo, but that's just something that I'm assuming, because you can see that he had that what Sayla wanted wasn't what wasn't exactly what Gendo was. Gendo was cool with pretending that that's what he was going to do, but he was really working for him. You can see he's playing a trick. He's doing a switch. He's like saying, "Oh, sure, I'm working for you guys," but when he starts sending other people into the meeting because he's not available, which he is, but he refuses to go, it's like, well, he's got plans, and you could see how conniving he is. So you know that he's doing something, and I feel like, I mean, trying to not trying to pretend like I don't know anything about a movie that exists, right? You can see that he's that he is achieving that thing, whatever that thing is, that he's getting it, or he makes a lot of ground toward it.
yeah, I like. I'm curious if I can get you to, like, through a series of questions, see how much you can piece together. But I don't know if I should.
Well, we
Just
could try it. I mean, if it's, I mean, why not?
like, try to piece together all the things that Gendo does that makes Sayla freak the fuck out. There's a few things he does in this series where they're like, "This is unconscionable. How can he do this? He's planning against us. We need to remove him." There's a few things, and if you put them together, like, I'm just thinking about this right now as I'm sitting. I didn't even realize how much is given out in the show. But if you, like, string those things together, like, how many can you remember?
Well, I mean, I know that that he gets Adam, right, that he's doing that's a decision that obviously he knows about, that no one else knows about, because why would they let him have that? There's
Mhm.
no way that they're okay with that.
Mhm.
um let's see, I also know that we already know that he's sort of conniving, and that he manipulates people because of some of the backstory we get. And is it 22 or 23, where it's that whole, like, long flashback where you see a young Gendo, and Shinji's mom, and the other guy who's like the sort of doctor scientist that works with Gendo in the background. It's basically his flashback.
Yeah,
I thought was,
Fuyutsuki.
what was the name? I'm sorry.
Fuyutsuki.
Fuyusuki.
Yeah.
That is a great episode, by the way, and you learn a lot, and you get a lot of information from that. that it's almost like too much information.
It
And
is. That is one thing I was gonna say that I wanted to bring up on this talk is Evangelion is really weird with its exposition, as if it's not weird about everything else. And on the one hand, it's not like other anime in that it stays away from explaining you to death and making things obvious. So a lot of things you have to work out on your own. But on the other hand, it is like a lot of other anime because there's a lot of exposition dumps and they come at you fast and often where you're
yeah,
just being like, bam, 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 bam. I hope you retained all of that deep lore that we just did. And the movie is like that too. The last time I watched the movie, I'm like, holy shit, I don't remember them like bowling you over with deep lore like this. But because I understood the lore better, I could kind of parse it better. But yeah, so there's just a lot of lore in that episode where you're like, oh my god, I have to remember this. I have to remember that. But it's a disturbing episode, man. Like,
oh, it is. A- And so we get that flashback, and we see Gendo doing that, and we see some of the other manipulations that he's done, and then we find out that he's been manipulating people in the current timeline, right? That what's going on right now, he's manipulating those people and playing with their emotions and stuff like that. So I know that to me, there's something he's getting out of having Adam, but I'm not certain precisely what. Maybe that means that he is like, if we go back to the stage imagery with Shinji, that he is like becoming a director in a sense. Like he sort of has control. He essentially is in charge of instrumentality, can implement it or not, or that's what my guess would be, but I don't. But this is a lot of conjecture. Just so that, well, maybe this and maybe this, because I still don't really have the clearest picture of those things.
he did something with Lilith though, too, remember?
So
He
Lilith is down in Terminal Dogma. She's on a cross and impaled by the spear of Longinus, and they use that. Actually, he does use that. That is a big deal. That's right. When he
Yeah,
gets when
there
he
you
gets
go.
them, he's like, use the spear of Longinus, and like, are you sure? He's like, oh yeah, go ahead and do it. And like, won't they get? He's like, yeah, it's fine. And then he does it, and like, how dare you? And he's like, well, we had to use it. And they're like, well, there's no way we could ever get it back. He's like, oh shucks.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, that was totally a power play. Like that's when they're kind of realizing like we should not have had Gendo in charge. Like this guy is way too smart and way too conniving to be in charge of this program. He is totally he is getting us.
And then there's, of course, getting Shinji to pilot the Ava,
That's true. Yeah.
which
You
he's
know,
also very obsessed with. And then you learn, I checked it myself just in this rewatch I did, just to make sure I could say it on here and not have it spoiled. But he says that Unit 1 comes from Adam. No, Unit 1 comes from Lilith, I believe. Holy crap, now I'm getting it wrong. But yeah, there's something special about Unit 1 that's different than the other ones. Those are definitely good connections. um, so yes, I would also say that Gendo comes out on top by the end of the show.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't really want him to. I mean, we get the feel like if there's a villain in the show, you feel like he's the villain in like quotation marks. Like all this stuff has to pass through him to happen. Like anything that has going on at Nerve has to go through his approval. Um, or this whole series of events is like he has his hands in all of them. He's always involved. It's something goes back to something that he's doing or he has plotted, you know. So it's such a strange thing to say that such an important character is as you watch isn't really doesn't have the interests of humanity at heart or doesn't seem to seems to have his own interests at heart, but you're not. I still don't know what
Mhm.
the final conclusion of that is, what he's working towards. What does he know that I don't know? I don't know.
Exactly.
I'm not sure.
I said it earlier in episode 25. You get some kind of inkling, but that's all I should say. Sayla was formed to handle the angel problem, and it was under the direction supposedly of all of Sayla, but the guy that they assigned to be the one who heads Sayla has seemingly gone rogue for his own motivations, and they're trying to rein him in throughout the entire show. But he's obviously on his own track. And then there's the Marduk Institute, which is a dummy corporation, which is why it's so confusing, because you don't really need to be paying. It's literally just smoke and mirrors around the idea that they already know who is going to pilot all the Avas, because
Mm.
they're all children that have some kind of connection. I don't. This is the one thing that actually I don't know. It might be good to discuss. Rei and Shinji and Asuka, all those pilots have a very direct connection to Nerve already before they even become pilots. Asuka's mom, Shinji's parents, both of them, and for Rei, she was literally made from Shinji's mom, so
Yeah.
they have a direct connection. But all the other students who are supposedly also Ava pilots in waiting, they don't have any connection to other than, I guess, the Marduk Institute put them all in one room together. But you
Yeah, I
know,
don't know either. I mean, I thought a little bit about how like all these young people are very easy to manipulate. They're very it seems like they're emotionally needy in some way. So like maybe that makes them connect easier with their Ava. Like they want into a certain type of interaction or hunger for a certain thing.
mhm.
But I still don't know if that quite explains it.
I have a theory, and it just occurred to me as I was about to say it that it might actually have a connection to something that happens in the rebuilds, but we don't even know if the rebuilds are the same canon or what. Like
No.
nobody in Evangelion knows what to make of the rebuilds. But um, I think there's like this weird thing in Evangelion about being being in childhood or being in a state of innocence, versus being an adult. There's all these references about like embryos and fetal positions and amniotic fluid and what do you call the thing? The cord, the umbilical
Oh,
cord.
umbilical cord. Yeah.
Like all of that imagery is there. There's a lot of stuff to do with pregnancy and being impregnated and sex. Remember when even during the one sex scene we get, Kaji puts something inside of Misato, and it turns out to be access codes to the mainframe computer. But and then so there's like this birth and death thing. So it's like the kids are like symbolic babies. I know that sounds weird, but there's all of this imagery attached to them, and it's like if you're an adult, you're like too far removed from the development stage of
Oh,
life.
yeah.
You
That's a
know,
good point.
I think that's why they're kids, and yeah.
I mean that does seem to work in a lot of ways.
Yeah, there's a lot of like really weird stuff to do with like um, childhood and birth and things like that. Oh yeah, and when Shinji synchronizes 400% with his Ava, there's this thing where Ritsuko is describing the fluid inside of the Ava that Shinji is now a part of, and she says it's something similar to the before life started. What is that pool called? Whatever that
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, like some sort of like biological soup or something from beginning of time. Is that what you're talking about?
from the beginning of life. Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, it's like this idea of like developing from conception to being born, and when Shinji comes out and emerges from that fluid, it's like that old animation you would see of the evolution of life, where you take the first steps out of the ocean, and like he's being reborn, he's nude again, and so
Yeah.
there's all of that stuff too. um I think that's why they're kids. I think there's like this like deep symbolic aspect to it. It might have something to do with Kabbalah as well.
Oh,
Kabbalah, however you say that. Uh, Mysticism from the Jewish faith. I've looked into it a little bit, but I know it's really significant in Evangelion, because at the beginning of Evangelion, in the intro, you see the tree of life, which is like the core thing in Kabbalah. Um,
yeah.
so maybe the whole weird thing about birth and death and childhood and whatever has something to do with that, and I just missed it.
There's some scene, I can't remember what it is, that is Gendo in his office, and as it pans out, it's like the Star of David. If you look, it literally, it doesn't, it's like his desk has got like this like 3 points, and then it zooms out and it's reflected on the floor. So
Yeah, yeah. And then earlier, just to make clear, we're not picking on the Jewish faith here. There's also like the Christianity stuff, as we've
oh,
already
for sure.
mentioned, and the shadow of the cross being draped again on Gendo. He's the one bearing the cross, and he's got a crucified God in his basement. And there's all the Christian theology stuff. Like all the angels have names. Not all of them are said on screen. They're said in the script at least. And those angels are all in the Bible. Like you can look
Right.
them up, but they're like biblically accurate angels, like the Nephilim and the seraphim or whatever you call them, with like a bajillion eyes in weird places. There's like a lot of deep mysticism, and the mysticism definitely extends to the organizations too, because they have like this very dogmatic view of how things should be and how humanity should get to the next stage, and all of this sort of apocalyptic language around instrumentality.
It's great to think about it and talk about it too, because it's like it just gets you, it gets me to think more about it. So it's like, oh, I kind of want to go back and watch it all again, to kind of now, like with a new
No,
perspective or with an additional perspective, right?
I'm sitting here right now being like, I kind of want to start over, even though I just finished like 2 days ago. I can't get, oh man. And part of me thinks you should see, when are you planning on seeing the movie?
I don't, not too far from now. I don't think I'll probably watch it tonight precisely, but probably soon. I want to watch it soon. Probably after I've edited this and everything. So maybe this upcoming week.
Okay. I'm thinking what you should do, since you have a hankering for Evangelion again.
Okay.
I guess you could start watching it over again. But before you put on the movie, maybe give yourself an extra 45 minutes, watch episode 25 and 26 again, and
Okay.
think about everything that you're seeing and what the hell is happening. And then remember what I said about how the first half of episode 25 seems to be just story told to you in an abstract way. And then there's a clean cut and it says instrumentality begins. And then it's the back half of those episodes. Back half.
Yeah, and that's funny because I remember it saying that, but I didn't think about it being like, hey, right from this point in the show that you're watching, it begins. I thought it was like
This is
it had already begun, like it was just a statement and not be like a direct talk, like a direct conversation with me, like, hey, it's starting right now.
That's what I thought too. I just assumed like, okay, we've been watching instrumentality. Instrumentality is when there's like signs that we're in a stage, like someone sitting in a chair with a spotlight on them and like a stage lights and all that stuff. That is what instrumentality symbolically looks like in the context. But no, it turns out that the show tells you explicitly this is instrumentality now, and then later in those episodes they tell you this is what instrumentality is doing. But yeah, so if you watch those again and then watch the movie, I don't know what it's going to do for you, because for me, I watched the show and then I didn't think about it for a few months, and then I watched the movie and I was like, I should have been thinking about the show a little bit more. So
Okay, it's good to know. So I might want to refresh before I go right back into the movie. Okay, that's fine.
well, between you watching the show 1.5 times and this chat we're having, I think you are way better equipped to see the movie and get what the fuck is happening than I was when I first. The first time I saw the movie, I was just like, in the Space Odyssey when he enters the Stargate and he's just like rattling in the back of his seat and there's like flashing colors beyond his comprehension. That's what it was like watching the movie. I was like, what the hell is happening? But I think you're gonna get a little bit more out of it. But for me, when I'm confronted with something in a story that I like, that I don't understand, and I really don't get what the heck I'm seeing, my instinct is to be like, I gotta just think about it more, you know?
Yeah,
Uh,
that's usually what I do too. Like I don't mind if something is given to me and I don't understand it. Like I can accept that. I think it's fun. I love. I'm not saying I'm very good at it, but I really enjoy that sort of investigation that you have to do. I think it's a lot. It's great when you know that there is a decision behind it. It isn't that it rewards you looking deeper.
Yeah. There's a few anime that are like that, and I cherish everyone, and there's still more that I am intending to see that I hear are like that, but I haven't gotten to them yet. Like I hear Paranoia Agent is like that, and Steins Gate I hear is like that as
Mm.
well. I haven't seen either yet though.
No, me neither. So we're not
Okay.
that together.
They're modern anime. I don't know what it is with anime, but I'm really selective in the ones that I even try, and it's usually I will watch easy anime that I can pop on in the background while I'm working and not feel like I'm missing anything because they're so simple. So for example, the anime I'm watching right now is called K-On, and it's a slice of life anime set in a high school with these girls who formed an after school club so they could hang out, but they realize they have to be doing something as an after school club, so they form a band. But it's like they would rather be drinking tea, but they still are all musicians or whatever. So they have different levels of commitment to the band, but it's just them basically goofing around and getting in these dumb little stories, and it's so easy, and I can, I don't have to think about it. But unfortunately, that means it's rare that I see an anime that just blows my mind. Even though I know there's a bunch out there, it's just the mental bandwidth that it takes to appreciate those anime is bandwidth that I always feel I could be using to read. So
Mm.
that's kind of what
Yeah,
keeps me away from just binging all of these things that are apparently called considered masterpieces.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, there's a different like you're like I have to really engage with this, and so you have to decide like I need to set aside time to watch it, not just put it on.
I would like to read the manga for Evangelion. I keep putting it off. I keep meaning to read it, and then another year gets away from me. But I really, really intend to read it, and I've read a few chapters just like to dip my toe in and get a sense of what it's like. It seems to be pretty consistent with the anime, except there's a few minor differences. Like Shinji talks about being raised by his uncle. The anime never mentions that. Although the anime does mention that Shinji learned how to play the cello. Um,
Oh, I think I do remember that.
yeah, I think he's practicing it, and Asuka walks in, and he's like, "Well, nobody told me to stop practicing
Yeah,
cello."
that's right. Right.
And
It's like
he's like, "You're fucking ridiculous," or whatever. So that comes up in the manga where it's like, "Oh, his uncle taught him to play the cello." Okay. So just very minor things, but I hear that the manga Evangelion is so weird. Every iteration, it does something a little bit different. The rebuild went way off in the weeds, where I'm like, whoa! But I loved it. A lot of people hate it. I loved it. And then the manga I hear also does that, but
so. No, is the manga from the anime? Is the anime from the manga?
I think this might be one of those confusing situations where they were concurrent.
Oh,
Uh,
interesting.
I think the anime started first, but Hideaki Anno was writing the manga, and the ending he came up with for the manga, I think, was different because the constraints of the medium were different. Because you don't have to worry about budget so much
That's
with
true.
the manga, so he could tell, I think, more what he wanted to. Like you get the impression, or at least I do, that had Hideaki had he had full control of the ending of Evangelion, he would have been a little bit different with it. He would have been a little bit more big budget with it. I mean, you definitely get that impression when you see the movie,
Yeah.
but like you said, it almost feels like Evangelion should have been longer because it's so dense. You feel like they could have stretched it out and had it be a little bit more of a even pace.
Right. Not in a bad way. Just it feels like there's enough material there that was totally ready for it. That was ready to expand a bit. Well, so probably maybe after the movie, maybe we should read the manga together. That'd be cool too.
I just need to find the time.
I hear you. Maybe we'll see. It's an option.
I am so excited. You have to tell me the night where you are going to watch the movie
I
so
will
that I
tell
can
you.
like sit and wait for you to come back and freak out. We should
Fair enough.
We should do a chat just between maybe we should do a recording of your initial thoughts to the
Oh
movie.
wow. Oh, okay. Initial. Okay. Like I even like a live stream of me watching the movie. That would be too distracting. I would
No,
not be. I would not remember anything. I would be like,
I mean, we can both hop on when you're done and then stream it out and just get your first reactions because I think it would be interesting.
yeah, it might be. Maybe there's something we could do. That does sound like it could be fun. All
Yeah,
right, we'll put a pin in that idea and to remember to try it. I'll have to. Well, I'm not sure when I'm gonna watch it. I need to set because how long is the movie? An hour and a half. I'm guessing hour and a half, just because that's what a movie length is.
it's kind of hour and 40, hour and 50.
Okay, so about 2 hour, say 2 hours set aside, plus a little time to make sure I'm back in the headspace. Okay, okay.
I
Sounds
should tell
cool.
you something extra weird. It's the movie is called like the movie. If you're watching it, it will have intertitles just like the show, and they tell you that you're watching episode 27 and 28.
Oh
So
wow,
it's the movie is broken up into two episodes, which is just
that's
a
kind of cool. All right.
very weird. So basically, you're gonna be watching the movie, and then the credits will roll, and then you'll be like, "What the fuck?" And then more movie.
Oh, that's interesting. That's great.
The credits happen in the middle of the movie, and it's
That's
very
funny.
bewildering. And they play this in theaters. I can't imagine what people
Yeah, can
must.
you imagine 45? Like I thought this movie was
Now that is an after credit scene. That is a post credit scene.
a whole second half.
Yeah, 45-minute long post credits scene. I can't imagine what people must have been going through.
Yeah,
Um,
because then you think, oh, is this just 5 more minutes of video? And you're like, oh, wait, no, this is the whole other half of the movie. That's awesome.
Yeah, we have that benefit now because we can like move our mouse around on the screen and see, oh, we can see our time track on the bottom of the video and we can see we've got 45 minutes. But if you went in the theater, you would have been like, what the fuck? I bet people left. I bet people left in the middle
Somebody
of the
probably
movie.
did. They just got up and left, and then hopefully somebody's like, well, no, no, wait, it's longer. Remember, the movie is billed as being longer than that.
Yeah, but I
Awesome.
guess the only other thing that we should talk about in terms of the movie, because I don't want to focus on that because you haven't seen it, but I am curious what your predictions are.
Wow. I really don't know what to expect. I don't
Okay.
know. My So obviously we're going to see more of what of Gendo's plan, I would think. We're going to see so if instrumentality has started and if Gendo is getting what he wants, then we're going to see those two things realized. Um hmm. So obviously the angels are probably not done with humanity yet. Well wait, would they be? Maybe they would. I don't know. I don't know what to think. I see. Honestly, to me, it's up in the air. I'm like, I feel like there are unresolved issues, but I don't exactly know where it's going to go. So I don't know. I guess I was going to say I'm not really sure what's going to happen. I don't know if I mean I would think that there's going to be them getting in their suit, or else they wouldn't have made a movie. But then it's like, but what are they fighting?
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect either. I was like, what is going on? Yeah. And then, like, within the first scene, I was so appalled. And I was like, that's how we're starting with this? And then I had the fucking experience of my life. Like, I swear to God, End of Evangelion is one of my favorite anime movies of all time, and that is stiff competition. We're talking like Spirited Away, Akira, Tech on Concrete, Angel's Egg, and I would put End of Evangelion up there with them.
Oh, okay, cool,
Yeah.
awesome.
It's just a problem because usually when people are asking anime movies, I have to be like, well, End of Evangelion is amazing, but first you need to see Evangelion, and I don't know if you're gonna make it. um, but now you've seen them, so you're ready.
Right. Cool. 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 All right. Yeah, I'm excited. You were like, "Are you gonna watch the movie right away?" I'm like, "Oh, no, let's wait. Let's give wait and then give it a little time." Especially after I got deep into the series. I'm like, "Oh, I don't want to go right into the movie after this because I don't even know if I quite understand everything I just saw.
I'm really glad that you held on to that instinct. Like, I'm so glad that you've had time to really process just the 26 episodes by themselves. Because I think I didn't really reflect too much on the show between seeing, like, I loved it, but it kind of faded in my mind. And then I saw the movie like months separate, and I was just like, shit, I feel like I missed a lot. I mean, I feel like the movie's gonna make you feel that way no matter what, but um yeah, it made me feel like I had underappreciated the anime the first time around. And I have ADHD, and sometimes my comprehension is really bad. Like, I'm talking, I didn't understand Kaji was dead when I first saw the anime.
Yeah, I was unclear about it, and then watching, like, I'm pretty sure that he's dead. I mean, he was talking like he is, and so I'm like, but is he really, or is he just like away?
Yeah, even though they did a gunshot cut to black cliche, I
Yeah,
still somehow I assumed it was because of my learning comprehension is very slow, but maybe it's not just me. I thought, oh, he's around though, like we'll see him again, and then I had to like rewatch and be like, oh no, he's totally dead. What the fuck?
yeah.
How did I not comprehend this
What the
basic in
hell?
the plot? Like, it's not like they hid it or anything. Um, so yeah, even basic things I had to go back and rewatch, and it's been a very slow process for me to come to understand all that has happened. But I enjoy that kind of experience if I am given the time. So
Yeah,
yeah, I just appreciate Evangelion for putting its audience on uneven footing over and over again. I think it makes it so much more memorable than it would be otherwise.
yeah. I agree. It was a really great time. I'm really glad that you convinced me to go through and watch the whole thing over again.
Yeah, I'm thrilled somebody took me up on it. I've had people, I've been recommending the anime as like it's the first anime series I recommend to anybody, and usually people just don't end up watching it. Or I remember one time I recommended it to somebody that I was on another Discord with, and they were like, I said like this is the best anime, blah blah blah, and then we were talking a little bit more, and then they were talking like about, oh, I wish that content that I watched had a little bit more of a trigger warning because I have issues about certain content. And then I was like, I think I have to rescind my recommendation of Evangelion. And so they didn't watch it. But no, I'm so glad you watched it. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. And I realized that we went in all freaking directions, and that was but it was a real flowing conversation. So
Right.
hopefully it translates well to an audience of people. I don't know if we would lose people. I'm sure we will, but
You would have, I mean, I would definitely say you'd have to have watched the series to follow the conversation. But that we already said that. Spoilers. So if you're, if we were if our conversation about a confusing anime was confusing, you have to have seen it first.
yeah. And the thing is, I feel like we could keep on talking about it, but I realize that this is getting very long in the tooth.
Right.
So shoot, I guess we'll have to save it for when we come out with the video on End of Evangelion, the Evangelion
And
movie. So I can't wait to hear your response. And
I'm excited about it. I really am. This is gonna be cool.
yeah, and we can tie in some of what we've seen in the show into our discussion of the movie. And yeah, I'm keenly awaiting it. Yeah, thank you
Awesome.
for having me, Virgil. And if
Thanks
anyone
so much for coming
wants
on.
to see a channel of me doing obnoxiously analytical reviews of somewhat obscure books, then check me out. And
Yeah, deep in the reads. Yeah, I love your channel. Your videos are great. I love your reviews are just really good. They're just really good no matter what.
thank you.
And also I just love that you review books that, like you said, most people don't tend to review or talk about. And it's
Mhm.
just a fantastic resource.
Yeah, every once in a while I do popular or classic books, but I just review the books that I want to talk about that I happen to be reading, and those happen to be all over the place. Like, I'm going to do a science fiction review of Solaris coming up soon, and then I don't know, I'm going to read like some African novel by Gugi wa Thiong'o because he just passed away. So I'm just kind of all over the place. But yeah, thanks so much. This was a lot of fun, and hopefully the audience gets something out of it too. And we'll talk later then.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks very much. All right, everybody. See ya. Thanks very much.
See
Bye.
ya.